And we are back, doing back-to-back episodes. Well, for you, it's week to week, but I'm recording this right after the last one because I'm at the time of this recording, it's still August 18, and tomorrow I will be going on that road trip. So that being said, I got to batch a few episodes. This will also allow me to have a little more content prepared. Because here's the thing, guys. When things get hectic, when life is busy, when you're hit with a few setbacks on the private side of life, you sometimes have to get a little creative to make things work. So that being said, we're getting to it, right? We're getting the podcast out again. I know I skipped a week. By the time you're listening to this, it's going to be like 2 weeks ago. There was no episode. Gonna make sure that that doesn't happen anymore for the rest of this year. But then again, right? If there's one thing I want you to remember, is that Instagram, social media in general, is a highlight reel. I often get this from a lot of people. It's like, hey, you do looks like you're doing great. It looks like it. But don't get me wrong, like there's a lot of people who are going through shit. And I'm not gonna get into my personal life on here or whatever it is, or specific examples, but I just want you to remember that social media is a highlight reel. And I want you to remember to check in with your people, because people might be going through shit. You might be totally missing it. So ask how they're doing and actually listen, right? And actually see how they are doing, because they might just need your support. That's all I'm going to say for now. Cool? Today I wanted to talk about nature, spending time in nature. And like I said, by the time you're listening to this, I'll probably be back from my road trip, to be honest with you. Like I'll be driving north maybe over the course of a week. Might be a little bit longer, maybe a week and a half, but I'm going to have to see what makes sense, because I'll be working from the road as well. So it's going to be like work day and then road trip, like basically the second half of the day. I always start early, so that should work. But that being said, right, I'm going to see how long it's going to take me. There's a couple of cool areas I want to check out. But that being said, time in nature is so important. But did you know there's actual research also to back that up? Did you know there's research to show that it drops your cortisol level, specifically when you are in nature, right? So we always talk about going for a walk and stress management, but actually going out in the green zones can enhance that effect drastically. And that's today's topic. It's from a blog a couple of weeks ago, all about forest bathing. Now, forest bathing is a concept that comes from Japanese culture. The reason they kind of came up with it is kind of crazy, because they dove into stress management for something that's called, let me just double check real quick, what was the right word again? Because I know it's like now I totally forgot. Hang on. Allow me to look this up real quick. It was super dark. Sorry about that. Yes, karoshi, which means death from overworking. Very dark, like I said. But stress is a real thing. Stress makes us sick. Stress makes us unhappy, and it creates dysfunction in the body. And we want to manage stress. And in my opinion, the best, but I'm going to say one of the best ways to de-stress is going to get out in nature. It's going to be getting out in nature. So we'll talk about that today. You ever feel like you need a break? Especially with technology and notifications and your inbox always just filling up, right? You never get to clear it. There's almost like this pressure from that ever-growing laundry list of things you got to do, your responsibilities, and then there's like all this stuff to take care of, right? Then there's constant noise from traffic, busy cities, fear-mongering on social media, mainstream media, and the fact that we're more sedentary in general, if we think about it, right? Plus, we're less connected with nature. So this all together is a great recipe for, mental unhealth, let's say. So no wonder we don't feel great, right? If I just name that list, it sounds like, okay, this sounds a little too familiar, but we also know that it's generally not healthy for us. Stressing too much, and right? Now today I wanted to discuss a potential solution to a lot of your problems, right? We're going to speak to Shinrin Yoku, which is Japanese for forest bathing. And it actually has a lot of science to back this up. I always want to make sure that when we dive into these concepts, there is research to back it up. Science is important. There's a lot of weird claims out there, right? Let's actually dive into what seems to be, I'm not going to say proven, but supported by research. Because in all reality, and this is how you can catch someone on social media, by the way, if they speak to something as if it's right it's a fact, it's 100%, like it's this and not this, that usually shows that they don't really understand how the research works. The only thing we can really say based on the research, right, is research indicates that, right? Or there's evidence for this. It's not black or white. So let's escape the chaos a little, like I've been doing on this road trip. Let's get outdoors more, recharge your batteries, boost that immune system, lower cortisol levels, and improve your health in general, right? Your mental health, your physical health. There's something we can do that's so basic that we tend to skip it. And it's literally just getting out in a green zone in general, right? It could be a park, could be out in the forest, nature, whatever it is. I'm not one for fear-mongering, but I do want you to fully understand the importance of getting outside. So I'm going to start with the bad news and the downside of modern day life and technology. Now, of course, let's be honest, technology has brought a lot of good to this world. A lot of it, a lot of growth. Although it does have its downsides. Going back to the Japanese, so they already were researching this in the 1980s. Right? So 1984, the Japanese discovered technostress. And I'll be linking the mentioned research studies here in the blog that's in the description. So if you want to dive a little deeper there, it's all going to be in there with the PubMed ideas and the links and all that. So, but technostress describes unhealthy behaviors around new technology. Constantly refreshing your notifications, like posting updates, checking your phone all the time, doom scrolling, feeling like you're supposed to be connected all the time and available 24/7, right? These are all behaviors that can cause technostress, which can lead to anxiety, headaches, depression, mental fatigue, eye and neck strain, insomnia, frustration, irritability, loss of temper. Like, does this sound a little familiar, right? Both the behaviors as well as the outcomes? I think so, right? Again, I'm not here to fear-monger, but I want you to really understand, like, there's a lot of modern day problems that come from, right, overuse of technology, not going out in nature, always just being, right, obsessed with that thing, that little screen. And I'm guilty too. I'm not judging you here either, right? I'm guilty too. It's a constant battle for me to not be on my phone. And honestly, it's quite difficult. I'll be fully transparent with that, right? Now, that being said, nature therapy for disease prevention. Again, this is all backed by science, right? So the negative effects of technology and being inside, sedentary, etc., right? Stressing too much. It's not just mental health, also physical. I'm going to quote this from a study that's linked as well. It says, stress can induce almost all non-communicable diseases, such as cancers, hypertension, depression, cardiovascular disease, stroke, gastric ulcer, obesity, alcoholism, panic disorders, and eating disorders, and the list goes on, right? Therefore, the health management of workers, especially in relation to stress-related diseases, has become a major social issue, and an effective new method for prevention of diseases is needed. This was from a study that's called Effects of Forest Environment, Shinrin Yoku, forest bathing, on health promoting and disease prevention, from the establishment of forest medicine. That's what the study is called. So chronic stress is making society sick, depressed. But luckily, we can do something about that. Something as basic as getting outside a little bit more. Making a point of putting that phone away, not using technology too much, making sure we de-stress. Because if we do so, right, and this is specifically about forest bathing. So Shinrin Yoku, right, spending time in nature, being out in nature, and that goes for actually in the moment, like smelling nature, as well as maybe sometimes even feeling it, really absorbing it, listening to it, right, really being present, right? Here's what the research says about this, which is really cool, right? So improved immune function and anti-cancer properties. So trees actually release a little chemical which can act on your natural killer cells. And these are white blood cells that can destroy infected and diseased cells, like cancer cells. And they can also increase, so the tree chemical, right, can increase that number of the natural killer cells in your body. So this is kind of crazy, right? So being out in nature can actually potentially boost immune function and even seems to have some anti-cancer properties as a calming effect on the nervous system. It's going to boost that lower sympathetic and boosted parasympathetic activity, bring you back into what's called rest and digest, taking you away from that fight or flight state. Decrease stress hormones, right? It's going to lower that cortisol. Increase serotonin. So we're also going to we're going to feel better, right? We're going to feel more relaxed. It's basically, so serotonin is like a chemical in your brain that helps you feel happy and calm. And the list goes on. Like, there's so many benefits to actually spending some time in nature. And you'll see me post about this all the time, hiking, those kind of things. But it's for a reason. Like, I want you to really try and make a point of even like, because I understand like not everyone's going to have a lot of time for these kind of things, but get out in nature every now and then, right? Make it a point. If you live in a city even, there was another study, they looked at the benefits in terms of like lowering cortisol when people were going on a walk in a city environment versus a green zone. So this was specifically like in a big city, urban environment, or let's say city park. And the green zone had a more significant drop in cortisol, you see? So that nature component is very key. So that's what we want to do. Getting outdoors, like your life depends on it, because it kind of does, you know? We've evolved with nature, like we need it. Like we're part of it, right? But we've been disconnected from it. And I think in the early 2000s, we've officially become a urban species. We've removed ourselves from nature. We got to make a point of getting back into it. It makes everything better. And it even has physical effects, right? Not just mindset, not just stress management, actual changes, chemical changes like throughout your body. Isn't that cool? If you think about that, like literally just by going out in nature. So let's make a point of practicing forest bathing, de-stressing. And I want to say this too, because based on the research, the studies, right? So Shinrin Yoku, it's supposed to be something that allows you to slow down. It's supposed to be something where, hey, you're not running a fucking marathon through the forest. Like that's adding stress to the body. You know what I mean? Sure, exercise is an outlet for a lot of people. It is not stress management. I can't say this enough. If we are stressed already, you can still exercise, don't get me wrong. But intense exercise is not stress management. It's adding stress to the body, adding stress to the system. That's just how your body perceives it, right? It doesn't have to be a bad thing, but remember, now in this case, right, forest bathing, it's supposed to be something where you slow down, you're more present, you appreciate the senses, right? Like I said, touching, feeling, right? What's the same? But smelling, like listening to nature, like actually being in it, right? That's what this is about, so slow down. So a couple tips. I mean, honestly, think of just that one place where you're like, if I go here, I feel good. And there's a handful that I can think of right now that I could drive to here within 20 minutes, 20, 30. And every single time I'm there, I just feel great. I love being in those spots. And I think we all have that. Even if you live in a city, there's going to be that park. There's going to be that little area where you're like, I just really like sitting there, grabbing a book, right? Just kind of chilling. I just went on a new hike, not even a hike, just a little lap really into one of the valleys here a couple days ago by this really nice little stream. And it was just this dude, he just had a hammock and he was just chilling in a hammock and he was just right by that water, right? It's the best sound. And he was just chilling and it was so good. I'm like, that looks really nice. Just there reading a book, like that's the stuff you want to seek out, right? And maybe you don't have a stream, maybe you don't even have a forest in your area, but even a little park, right? Make a point of like going there. There's probably a reason for you to live in the place where you live currently, right? Probably in a little area, a little spot in your area that you really enjoy being at. Go there more often. Make a point of it, even if it's like once a week, preferably more, but even if it's once a week, like let's start there. Make sure to slow down though, right? Create stillness, appreciate the environment. Don't distract yourself too much either with always blasting music, always listening to podcasts. I'm a big fan of podcasts. I'm a big fan of music. I listen to music all the time. But how about we sit with our own thoughts for a little bit? Because we don't want to distract ourselves either. The whole point here is to also be present with our own thoughts so that we can think through stuff. Now, we can even combine this with reading, even meditation, things like journaling, like whatever you want to do. You could even meditate walking, by the way. I remember when I got Headspace a little while ago, when I got into meditation, I used to do the walking meditation, the guided one from Headspace. Now, eventually, I kind of just got rid of it because I got annoyed by constantly hearing that voice. So I was like, okay, now I know what to do. Like, I'm ready. So I'll just sit with my thoughts, right? Because it got distracting for me. But now I can actually do it without that guidance, right? As long as you just try to be mindful. And I know these kind of things, it sounds like a little bit like out there maybe, right? A little bit more like, on the hippie side of things, let's say. Which I get, I understand. And I understand that most people, or many people at least, will have that kind of response to something like this, right? Being out in nature and touching nature and smelling it. But there's actual research to back this up. So this is not just some hippie shit. This is like, hey, actual science backs this up. The anti-cancer properties, the immune system boosting properties, right? Lowering cortisol, increasing serotonin. These are all real things that happen inside of your body just by being out in nature. Isn't that cool? I think, like, personally, like, as much as I already just love nature, but like, I think that's so interesting, honestly. That's why I wanted to do a little blog in it. It's like, I think it's so cool that you can literally go out in nature and there's like a little chemical that's released from a tree that can boost the natural killer cells in your body, which is, how cool is that? Like, how, you see, we need to make a point of being out in nature. We need to make a point of getting out there and actually do what we're supposed to do, because we belong in nature. I can't say this enough. And I've made a point of getting out there more and more. And I even bought a house in the middle of fucking nowhere. Or actually, I should really say, I placed a bid on a house in the middle of fucking nowhere to be with nature, right? And I really think that the more we advance as a species, the more we're going to see the VR stuff, the technology, and all of that stuff. I truly think this, and this is not just based on my opinion about nature or whatever. I really think this. I think that as we evolve technology-wise and stuff, and as we advance, I think people will eventually start to seek out nature more and more. I think the true goal will become taking that back and actually creating that, right? Hey, I can move out the city, be out in nature a little bit, maybe have my little garden or something, right? I really think people will look for this more and more. I'll be moving out of the city. I can only speak for myself, right? But I know that for me, just mentally, it will be so much better. And I love it here, by the way, right? It's not that I don't, but I just know how I feel when I'm out there, on the coast and, surrounded by mountains. It's the best shit. And I really think that as we progress, people also start to realize the importance of this for our actual physical and mental health. So that being said, let's get outside more this week. Even if you go once this week for 15 minutes, you sit in a park, you do whatever you want to do, right? Let's get out in nature because you'll be healthier for it. I'll talk to you soon.